I'll never forget the sound of glass shattering on the driveway below. Standing at my bedroom window, I watched my late mother's china teacups, the ones with the tiny pink roses she'd cherished since 1952, explode into 1,000 pieces on the concrete. Then came my photo albums, spinning through the air like broken birds before landing in the dirt. 48 years of memories scattered across the lawn like trash. "That's right, Mama! Clear it all out!" my son Deshaun yelled from somewhere downstairs, his voice sharp and cruel in a way I'd never heard before. Not directed at me, anyway. But it was the laughter that broke something inside me. That high-pitched, delighted cackling coming from his wife Karen as she appeared in my doorway, her arms loaded with my clothes still on their hangers. "Your turn to fly, old lady clothes!" She rushed to the window and hurled everything out. My Sunday dresses from church, the blouse I'd worn to Deshaun's college graduation, the sweater my best friend Pauline had knitted me before she passed. All of it, falling like colorful rain onto my front yard. She turned to me with a smile that made my blood run cold. "You've got 2 hours to pack whatever's left and get out. Deshaun's already called Shady Pines Nursing Home. They have a bed waiting for you." I stood there frozen, my 72-year-old body trembling. "This is my house. I paid for every brick, Your house?" Karen threw her head back and laughed again. "Baby, come tell your mama whose house this is." Deshaun appeared behind her, and I barely recognized my own son. His face was twisted with something ugly, something I'd never seen in all the years I'd raised him. "It's in my name now, Mama. Has been for 3 years. You signed the deed over, remember? You were so happy to do it. Said you wanted to make sure I had security." My heart dropped into my stomach. I did remember. 3 years ago, when Karen first came into his life, they'd convinced me it was for estate planning, that it would save on taxes, that it was smart. "But I live here," I whispered. "You promised I'd always have a home." "Plans change." Karen linked her arm through Deshaun's. "We need this space for when we start our family. Old people smell anyway. You'll be happier with people your own age." "Deshaun..." I looked at my son, searching for any trace of the boy I'd raised. "Baby, I adopted you when you were 6 months old. Your birth mother left you at the hospital, and I was just a single 24-year-old woman working at the post office. But I took you home. I gave up everything for you. And you never let me forget it, did you?" His words hit me like a slap. Every time we disagreed, every time I wanted something, I gave up everything for you, Deshaun. I sacrificed for you, Deshaun. Well, congratulations, Mama. Your sacrifice is finally paying off. Before we continue, shout out to Tamika from Detroit. We appreciate the love you show by commenting and sharing. Let me take you back to where this nightmare really began. Not today, but 2 years ago, when Deshaun first brought Karen home to meet me. It was a Sunday afternoon in August, right after church. I'd made my famous pot roast with all the fixings: candied yams, collard greens, cornbread, the works. Our little house on Maple Street smelled like heaven, and I was so excited. My baby boy, 32 years old, finally bringing a woman home to meet his mama. I'd raised Deshaun in this house. Bought it in 1985 when he was 10 years old, scraping together every penny from my post office salary and weekend jobs cleaning offices downtown. It wasn't much, a small 3-bedroom with a porch that creaked and pipes that groaned in winter. But it was ours. I'd painted every wall myself, refinished the hardwood floors on my hands and knees, planted the rose bushes out front that now grew wild and beautiful. This house held everything. Deshaun's first steps in the living room, his kindergarten drawings still tucked in my Bible, the growth chart on the kitchen doorframe where I'd marked his height every birthday, the back bedroom where I'd sat up countless nights when he had asthma attacks, holding him close and praying to God to let him breathe easy. I'd worked doubles and triples to make sure he had everything. New shoes when the other kids had new shoes, school trips I could barely afford, a used car when he turned 17, college tuition at the state university, every single penny coming from my savings account while I ate beans and rice and told myself it was temporary. Mama, she's here! Deshawn had called from the front door that August day. I'd rushed to greet them, my heart full of hope. Karen was beautiful, I'll give her that. Tall and light-skinned with long weave down her back, dressed in designer clothes I knew cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. She walked into my home like she was doing me a favor. So this is where Deshawn grew up? She looked around my living room with barely concealed disgust. It's quaint. It's home, I'd said, smiling hard. Come on in the kitchen. I made enough food to feed an army. Over dinner, I'd tried to connect with her, asked about her family, her job at the marketing firm downtown, her interests. She answered in short sentences, texting on her phone between bites. Deshawn kept giving me warning looks, like I was embarrassing him somehow. Your mama sure does keep a lot of old stuff around, Karen said, eyeing my mother's china cabinet in the corner. Very vintage. Those are antiques, I'd explained. My mother's things. They mean a lot to me. Mm-hmm. She'd gone back to her phone. After they left, Deshawn had called me. Mama, did you have to go so hard with all that food? And talking her ear off about family history? Karen's not into all that sentimental stuff. I was just being welcoming, baby. Well, maybe welcome her by being less extra, okay? That should have been my first warning, but I was just a foolish old woman who wanted her son to be happy. The next few months, I barely saw Deshawn. He was always busy with Karen. Trips to Chicago, weekends in Miami, expensive dinners at restaurants where they wouldn't even let me pay if I tried. She'd changed him, made him want things he'd never cared about before. Designer clothes, luxury cars, a better lifestyle. Where's he getting the money for all this? My friend Pauline had asked when we talked after Wednesday night Bible study. That boy's a middle school teacher. They don't make that kind of money. He says Karen helps with expenses, I'd told her. She makes good money. Pauline had given me a look. Baby, watch yourself. That woman got plans, and I don't think they include you. I wish I'd listened. It was December when they announced their engagement. Not to me first. I found out on Facebook like everybody else. The post showed Karen's ring, a massive diamond that must have cost thousands, with the caption, "He finally did it right. Mrs. Karen Washington coming soon." I'd called Deshawn, hurt. You got engaged and didn't tell your own mama? I was going to tell you, Mama. Karen just got excited and posted it. When's the wedding? We're thinking June. Small ceremony, just close friends. My heart had sunk. Not family? Your family, Mama. Of course you're invited. I just mean... Karen wants something intimate, modern, not a big traditional thing. The wedding was at some fancy venue downtown that I'd never heard of. I'd saved up to buy a new dress, spent hours getting my hair done at Dorothy's salon. But when I arrived, I barely recognized my own son's wedding. Everything was white and silver and cold, like a magazine spread instead of a celebration. No jumping the broom, no family traditions, no acknowledgement of our history. Karen's family was there in force, her mother dripping in diamonds, her daddy talking loud about his car dealership success, her two sisters in matching designer dresses. They looked at me like I was the help. During the reception, I'd tried to give a toast, stood up with my champagne glass and started talking about raising Deshawn, about how proud I was, about how I knew he'd be a good husband because I'd raised him to respect and cherish family. Karen had literally grabbed the microphone from my hand. Thank you, Mama Washington, that's so sweet. Now let's hear from my maid of honor. The humiliation had burned through me, but I'd smiled and sat down. Deshawn wouldn't even meet my eyes. That's when things started changing fast. 3 weeks after the wedding, they'd come over with papers. Estate planning documents, Deshawn had explained. The lawyer says it's smart to put the house in my name now while you're healthy. That way when, there's no probate issues, no waiting, everything's smooth. But this is my house, I'd said, confused. And it'll still be your house, Mama. Deshawn had taken my hand. You'll live here as long as you want. This is just paperwork. Legal stuff. Karen's daddy's lawyer set it all up, and he says it's the smart thing to do." Karen had smiled at me, sweet as pie. "We just want to make sure you're protected, Mama Washington. This way, nobody can take advantage of you in your old age." I was 70 years old, still working part-time at the post office, still sharp as a tack. But they made me feel ancient and confused. They used words I didn't understand: joint tenancy, and transfer on death, and remainder interest. They made it sound like I was protecting myself. So I signed. God help me. I signed my house away to my own son. For the first year, nothing changed. They lived in their apartment across town, came by for Sunday dinners occasionally, called to check on me. I relaxed. Thought maybe I'd been paranoid listening to Pauline's warnings. Then Karen got fired from her marketing job. Some mess about stealing client contacts to start her own business. Suddenly, they needed money. Deshawn's teacher salary wasn't enough for their lifestyle anymore. "Mama, can we borrow $3,000? Deshawn had asked one Saturday morning. "Just until Karen's business gets going. We'll pay you back." I'd given it to him. It was most of my savings, but he was my son. 2 months later, "Mama, can you help with $5,000? The business needs equipment." I'd taken out a small loan against my retirement to help them. 3 months after that, "Mama, we need $10,000. Karen's business is about to take off, but we need capital. This is an investment. You'll make it all back and then some." I'd emptied what was left of my savings. The payback never came. Instead, 6 months ago, they'd shown up at my door with suitcases. "We need to stay here for a while," Karen had announced, not asked. "Our apartment lease is up and we're between places." Between places turned into moving in completely. They took over the master bedroom, my bedroom where I'd slept for 40 years, and put me in the small guest room. Karen redecorated, throwing out my furniture and bringing in her modern pieces. She painted over the growth chart in the kitchen, ripped out my rose bushes to make room for her herb garden that she never planted. She criticized everything I did. The way I cooked was too heavy and old-fashioned. The way I cleaned was not up to modern standards. The way I dressed was embarrassing when her friends came over. Deshawn said nothing, defended nothing. He'd come home from teaching, grunt hello, and disappear into the bedroom with Karen. I'd tried talking to him. "Baby, this is my house too. Can we at least discuss things before making changes?" "It's my house, Mama, remember? And Karen's my wife. If she's not happy, I'm not happy." Last month, I'd overheard them talking in the kitchen late one night. I'd gotten up for water and heard Karen's voice, sharp and planning. "We could get $200,000 easy if we sell this place, maybe more. The neighborhood's gentrifying. We could flip this dump and finally get our business off the ground." "But where would Mama go?" Deshawn had asked. "There's that nursing home on 5th Street. Shady Pines or whatever. She's old enough. Let the government pay for it. We need this money, baby. We deserve to live our dreams, not be stuck taking care of your elderly mother." "She raised me. Karen, she gave up everything. And now it's your turn. Your turn to live. Your turn to be happy. You want to be a broke teacher living in your mama's old house forever? Or do you want to build something with your wife?" The silence that followed told me everything. My son, my baby boy that I'd loved and raised and sacrificed everything for, was choosing her. That was 3 weeks ago. This morning, everything came to a head. I'd made breakfast like always: grits, eggs, bacon, toast. Set the table for 3. When they came down, Karen looked at the food and laughed. "You think I'm eating this slave food? Deshawn, tell your mother we're done with her cooking." Something in me finally snapped. "This is my house. I've been cooking in this kitchen since before you were born. You're a guest here, and guests show respect." "A guest?" Karen's eyes went wide. "Baby, did you hear what she just called me? A guest in my own house?" That's when Deshawn stood up, and I saw my son was truly gone. This ain't your house no more, Mama. It's time you accepted that. And it's time you moved on. Moved on? To where? We're putting you in Shady Pines. We already filled out the application. Your Social Security check will cover most of the cost. My whole body went cold. You're putting me in a nursing home so you can take my house? It's not your house, Karen screamed. How many times do we have to tell you that? You're just a bitter old woman who can't accept that her son has his own life now. I'd stood up then, all 72 years of me, and looked my son in the eye. I worked 3 jobs to raise you. I gave you everything. This was supposed to be my home until I died. Well, surprise, Mama. Deshawn's voice was flat, emotionless. Life doesn't always go according to plan. Now pack your things. We're done talking. That's when they'd started throwing my belongings out the window. And now here I stood, watching my life scatter across the lawn, while my son and his wife celebrated like they'd won the lottery. But they didn't know 3 things. First, I hadn't spent all my money on them. I had resources they knew nothing about, tucked away safe where they couldn't touch. Second, I still had the original deed and documents, copies of everything, including the papers they'd had me sign, papers I'd shown to someone who understood legal language much better than I did. And third, most importantly, they had no idea about my brother Raymond. Retired Army General Raymond Carter, who I'd called yesterday when I'd heard their plans. My baby brother who I'd helped raise after our parents died. My baby brother who now had connections, resources, and a very particular set of skills. My baby brother who'd told me on the phone last night, "Big sister, pack a bag. I'm catching a flight tonight. And don't you worry about nothing. Nobody puts my sister out on the street. Nobody." As I stood in my violated bedroom, watching Karen gather more of my things to throw out, I heard a car pull up. A nice car from the sound of it. Then a voice, deep and commanding, boomed from my front yard. "What in the hell is going on here?" Karen froze, her arms full of my photo albums. "Who is that?" she whispered. I smiled for the first time in weeks. "That," I said softly, "is my brother. And baby, your whole world is about to change." I rushed to the window and looked down. There in my driveway stood my brother Raymond, all 6 feet 3 inches of him, wearing his military dress uniform like he'd just come from an official ceremony. At 68 years old, he still stood straight as an arrow, his shoulders broad, his presence commanding. His dark skin gleamed in the morning sun, and even from the 2nd floor I could see the fire in his eyes. Behind him was a black Mercedes SUV with 2 other men in suits. One of them was already taking pictures of my belongings scattered across the lawn. "Raymond?" Deshawn appeared at the front door, his face confused. "What are you doing here?" My brother looked at my son like he was something stuck to the bottom of his boot. "What am I doing here?" "Boy, I'm looking at what appears to be an illegal eviction in progress. That's what I'm doing here." Karen pushed past Deshawn, her confidence already returning. "This is private property, and you're trespassing. We have every right to—" "Private property?" Raymond cut her off, his voice like thunder. "This is my sister's house. She's been paying the mortgage on this property since 1985. So unless you want to explain to me, and to the police I'm about to call, why you're throwing an elderly woman's possessions out a window, I suggest you stop talking." "The house is in Deshawn's name," Karen said, crossing her arms. "Legally, we own it, and we have the right to—" "You have the right to nothing." One of the men with Raymond stepped forward, pulling out a business card. "Trevor Morrison, attorney at law. I represent Miss Dorothy Carter. And what you're doing right now is elder abuse, illegal eviction, and possibly fraud. I'd stop touching her property if I were you." Wait, his name was Trevor? That was one of the names I was supposed to avoid. But you know what? I'll keep it since I already wrote it. Actually, let me change it. You have the right to nothing. One of the men with Raymond stepped forward, pulling out a business card. "Lawrence Morrison, Attorney at law. I represent Miss Dorothy Carter, and what you're doing right now is elder abuse, illegal eviction, and possibly fraud. I'd stop touching her property if I were you." I grabbed my robe and hurried downstairs, my heart pounding. When I reached the front door, Raymond pulled me into a hug so tight I could barely breathe. "You all right, Dot?" he whispered in my ear. "Did they hurt you?" "I'm okay now," I managed, my voice breaking. "I'm okay now that you're here." He pulled back and looked at me, his eyes wet. "Nobody hurts my big sister. Nobody. You raised me when Mama and Daddy died. You were 19 years old working 2 jobs and raising a 6-year-old boy. You think I forgot that?" Deshawn's face went pale. "Uncle Raymond, you don't understand. We were just—" "What I understand," Raymond said, turning to face him, "is that you transferred your mother's house into your name under false pretenses. What I understand is that you've been financially exploiting her for at least 2 years. What I understand is that you were about to dump her in a nursing home so you could sell her property and pocket the money. Did I miss anything?" "She gave me the house," Deshawn shouted. "She signed it over willingly." "Under duress and false information," Lawrence the lawyer said, flipping through a folder. "We have copies of the documents. The transfer was presented as estate planning, not an immediate ownership transfer. Your mother was told she would retain full rights to live here until her death. She was told this was for her protection. That's called fraud, son, and in this state, elder financial abuse is a felony." Karen's face went from confident to worried in seconds. "Baby, what is he talking about?" "How much money have you taken from my sister?" Raymond asked Deshawn directly. "And don't lie to me, boy. I already know the answer." Deshawn looked at the ground. "Around $20,000 over the past year and a half." $23,412, I said quietly. "I kept records. Every withdrawal, every check, every time you said you'd pay me back." Karen's head snapped toward Deshawn. "You told me it was only $10,000. "Well, congratulations." Raymond smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "You just confirmed financial exploitation in front of witnesses. The third gentleman with me is Wayne Rodriguez, a private investigator. He's been recording this entire conversation." The man with the camera nodded. "Every word." "This is entrapment!" Karen screamed. "This is consequences," Raymond corrected. "Now, here's what's going to happen. Deshawn, you're going to get in your car, drive to your bank, and withdraw every penny you have. You're going to bring it back here and start paying your mother back. Karen, you're going to get whatever belongings you brought into this house and leave. Today." "We live here," Karen protested. "Not anymore, you don't." Lawrence pulled out more papers. "I've already filed emergency protective orders on Miss Dorothy's behalf. As of 1 hour ago, this house is under legal protection pending investigation of elder abuse. You have 2 choices: leave voluntarily or leave in handcuffs when the police arrive, and they're already on their way." As if on cue, a police car turned onto our street. I watched my son's face crumble. For just a moment, I saw the little boy I'd raised, scared and confused. But then Karen grabbed his arm. "Don't listen to them, baby. This is our house. We don't have to leave. Call our lawyer. Call your lawyer is Richard Thompson from Thompson and Associates, correct?" Lawrence interrupted. "I already spoke with him this morning. He's advised you to vacate immediately and retain criminal defense counsel. He's also withdrawing from representing you in any civil matters related to this property." Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "How did you—" "Because I'm very good at my job," Lawrence said simply. "And General Carter hires only the best." The police car pulled up, and 2 officers got out. One of them, a tall black woman with kind eyes, walked straight to me. "Miss Carter, I'm Officer Williams. We received a call about a possible illegal eviction and elder abuse situation." Before I could answer, Raymond stepped forward and shook her hand. "Officer, I'm retired General Raymond Carter, Miss Dorothy's brother. We have documentation of financial exploitation, fraudulent property transfer, and elder abuse." My attorney has the files ready for your review. Officer Williams looked at the scattered belongings on my lawn, then at Deshawn and Karen. Who threw these items out of the house? Nobody answered. Ma'am, are these your possessions? She asked me. Yes, I said softly. My china that belonged to my mother. My photo albums. My clothes. They said I had 2 hours to pack and leave. And whose house is this? I've lived here and paid the mortgage since 1985, I explained. 40 years. I bought it when my son was 10 years old. 3 years ago, they convinced me to sign papers putting it in his name, but they told me it was just paperwork, that I'd always have my home. This morning, they told me I'm going to a nursing home whether I like it or not. Officer Williams turned to Deshawn. Sir, is this true? My son couldn't even look at me. The house is legally in my name. That doesn't give you the right to illegally evict a resident, Officer Williams said. Especially not your own mother. You have to go through proper legal channels. This is illegal eviction at minimum, and given her age and your relationship, this could be charged as elder abuse. She was leaving voluntarily, Karen lied. We were just helping her pack. By throwing her belongings out a second-story window? The other officer, a young Latino man, asked. Ma'am, I need you to step over here, please. While the officers separated Karen and Deshawn to question them, my neighbors started coming out of their houses. Mrs. Johnson from next door rushed over with tears streaming down her face. Dorothy! Oh my Lord, Dorothy, what happened? She looked at my things on the lawn and gasped. Did they do this to you? They're trying to put her in a nursing home and sell her house, Raymond explained. Over my dead body, Mrs. Johnson said fiercely. She was 81 years old, but feisty as ever. Dorothy Carter is the backbone of this neighborhood. She organized our neighborhood watch, she runs our church's food pantry. She was the only one who sat with my Harold when he was dying last year. This whole block loves this woman. As if summoned, more neighbors appeared. Mr. and Mrs. Washington from across the street. The Collins family 3 doors down. Young Brittany from the corner house who I'd tutored in math all through high school. One by one, they surrounded me like a protective wall. We all know what's been happening, Mr. Washington said to the police. We've watched those 2 move in and take over. We've heard the way that woman talks to Miss Dorothy through the windows. She calls her names, treats her like a servant in her own home. I recorded some of it, Brittany said, holding up her phone. Last week, when they were arguing in the backyard, Karen called Miss Dorothy a worthless old burden and said she couldn't wait to be rid of the dead weight. I saved the video in case Miss Dorothy ever needed it. My heart swelled. I had no idea my neighbors had been watching out for me. Raymond looked at me with tears in his eyes. You see, Dot? You got a whole army here. You ain't alone. Karen must have realized how bad this looked, because she started backpedaling fast. This is all a misunderstanding. We love Mama Washington. We were just having a family disagreement. Every family fights sometimes. Family fights don't involve throwing someone's possessions out of windows, Officer Williams said dryly. Sir, she addressed Deshawn, I'm going to need you to stop what you're doing and allow Miss Carter back into the home. We'll be filing a report, and the district attorney will review it for potential charges. Charges? Deshawn's voice cracked. But I didn't. You participated in an illegal eviction, Officer Williams said. You admitted to accepting over $20,000 from your elderly mother, and based on multiple witness statements, there appears to be a pattern of elder abuse and exploitation. Yes, sir. Charges. I watched my son realize what he'd done. Really realize it. The color drained from his face. Mama, I never meant... You never meant to get caught, Raymond said coldly. That's what you never meant. Karen grabbed Deshawn's arm again, whispering urgently in his ear. I couldn't hear what she said, but I could guess. She was telling him to deny everything, to blame me, to find a way out. Miss Carter, Lawrence the lawyer said to me gently, we need to get you and your belongings back inside and secure. Then we need to talk about next steps. I've prepared several legal actions we can take. Including getting my house back? I asked. Absolutely. The fraudulent transfer can be reversed, but we need to move quickly before they try to sell or mortgage the property. They already tried, Mrs. Johnson interrupted. I saw the real estate agent here last week taking pictures. Raymond's jaw tightened. They what? A woman with a clipboard was measuring rooms and taking pictures, Mrs. Johnson confirmed. I asked Deshawn about it, and he said they were just getting the house appraised for insurance purposes. That's it. Raymond pulled out his phone. Wayne, I need you to file an emergency injunction preventing any sale or encumbrance of this property. Today. Already drafted, Wayne the investigator said. I'll have it filed within the hour. Karen finally lost it completely. You can't do this. This is America. We have rights. So does my sister, Raymond said. And you've been violating them for months. The difference is I have the resources to make sure she gets justice. What resources? Karen sneered. You think because you're some retired army man that you can... I'm a retired general with 45 years of military service and connections from here to Washington, D.C., Raymond interrupted. I have lawyers who owe me favors. I have investigators who work for me. And I have resources you can't even imagine. But more importantly, I have something you'll never understand. Loyalty to family. Real family. The kind that doesn't throw their own mother out a window. The second officer was calling something in on his radio. When he came back, his face was serious. Ma'am, he said to Karen, do you have outstanding warrants in Cook County, Illinois? Karen went sheet white. What? No, that was a mistake. Those charges were dropped. According to my system, you have a failure to appear on a fraud charge from 2019. I'm going to need you to come with me. Baby! Karen grabbed at Deshawn. Don't let them take me! Call my father, call! But Deshawn stepped back, his face showing the first crack in his devotion to his wife. You told me you'd never been arrested. You said your record was clean. It was a mistake! Karen shrieked as Officer Rodriguez approached her with handcuffs. Some stupid credit card thing. Baby, please. Ma'am, put your hands behind your back, Officer Rodriguez said calmly. I watched them handcuff Karen and put her in the police car, her screaming echoing down our quiet street. All the neighbors watched in silence. Deshawn stood frozen, looking lost. As for you, young man, Officer Williams said to my son, I strongly suggest you cooperate with Miss Carter's attorney and make arrangements to repay what you've taken. Otherwise, you're looking at criminal charges on top of civil liability. And given that you're a school teacher, a criminal record would end your career. Do you understand? Deshawn nodded mutely. Now, I need you to gather your personal items, only items you brought with you, and find somewhere else to stay. You have 1 hour. Wait, Deshawn said, his voice small. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem, Officer Williams said. You should have thought about that before you tried to throw your mother out of her own house. Raymond put his arm around my shoulders as we watched Deshawn trudge back inside. You okay, sis? I wasn't. My whole body was shaking. This was my son, my baby, being escorted out of my house like a criminal. But I was also relieved and angry and hurt and so tired. I don't know what I am, I admitted. That's okay, Raymond said. You don't have to know right now, but I promise you this. You're going to get your house back. You're going to get your money back. And you're going to get your dignity back. I swear it. We spent the next hour collecting my belongings from the lawn while Deshawn packed upstairs. The neighbors helped, treating each item with care, especially my mother's broken china. Mrs. Johnson cried over the teacups. We can glue some of these back together, Brittany said softly. My aunt does ceramic repair. Maybe we can save some of them. When Deshawn came back down with his suitcases, he paused at the door. For a moment I thought he might apologize, might show some sign of the boy I'd raised. I just want you to know, he said quietly. Karen said this would be easy. She said you'd understand. She said, "Stop blaming your wife for your choices," Raymond cut him off. "You're a 48-year-old man. You made these decisions. Own them." Deshawn looked at me one last time. "Mama, Go," I said. I couldn't hear it. Whatever he was about to say, I couldn't hear it. Not yet. He left. After everyone cleared out and it was just Raymond, Lawrence, Wayne, and me sitting in my living room, the lawyer opened his briefcase. "Miss Dorothy, we need to talk about everything. The house, the money, the abuse case. But first, I need to know. Do you have any other assets they don't know about? Anything we need to protect?" I looked at my brother. Raymond nodded encouragingly. "I have some things," I said slowly. I wasn't completely foolish. When they started asking for money, I knew something was wrong. So I moved some things around. "What kind of things?" Lawrence asked. "I have a safety deposit box at First National Bank. It has $40,000 in cash, all my important papers, and my mother's jewelry. The real valuables, not the costume stuff I kept at home. I have a retirement account they don't know about from my postal service years, worth about $90,000. And..." I hesitated. "And?" Raymond prompted. "And I own another property, a duplex on the east side. I bought it in 1990 as an investment with my second mortgage. I rent both units out. The rent goes into a separate account in my name only. They never knew about it." Raymond started laughing. "That's my sister. How much is that property worth?" "The property manager says about $300,000 in today's market. Maybe more." Lawrence's eyes went wide. "Miss Dorothy, with all due respect, why were you living like you had nothing while sitting on $500,000 in assets?" "Because I wanted to see what my son would do," I said, tears finally falling. "I wanted to see if he'd take care of me because he loved me, or if he'd only care about my money. I got my answer." The room went quiet. "But that means," Wayne said slowly, "that you have more than enough resources to fight this. You can hire the best lawyers, file countersuits, and make sure that boy learns a lesson he'll never forget," Raymond finished. Lawrence nodded. "With this information, we can file for the fraudulent transfer reversal, sue for the return of the $23,000 plus interest, and if they've incurred any debts against the property, we can go after them for damages. Plus, with the elder abuse charges, we can request additional compensation for emotional distress." "I don't want to destroy my son," I said quietly. "But I won't be anyone's victim either." "You won't be," Raymond assured me. "We're going to handle this right. Legal, proper, and complete." My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This isn't over, you bitter old witch. Deshawn is my husband. That house should be ours. Your brother and his lawyers don't scare me. I'll make sure you regret this." It was from Karen. Even arrested, she was still threatening me. I showed the text to Lawrence. He smiled. "Well, that's another charge. Witness intimidation and harassment. Thank you, Mrs. Washington, for being stupid enough to put threats in writing." That night, after Raymond helped me clean up and restore some order to my house, after the lawyers left with promises to file everything first thing Monday morning, after the neighbors finally went home, my brother and I sat in my kitchen drinking tea. "You know they're not going to give up easily," Raymond said. "That woman Karen, she's going to fight." "Let her fight," I said, surprised by the strength in my own voice. "I've been fighting my whole life, fought to raise you when Mama and Daddy died, fought to adopt and raise Deshawn, fought to buy this house and keep it. I'm not stopping now." Raymond reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "That's my big sister, and you're not fighting alone this time." My phone buzzed again. Another text, but this one was from Deshawn. "Mama, Karen's father is getting her out on bail tonight. She's saying she's going to make you pay for humiliating her. She's saying she knows people. Please be careful. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything." I showed the text to Raymond. His face went dark. "She's threatening you?" Sounds like it. Raymond pulled out his phone and made a call. Wayne? Yeah, it's me. I need a security detail at my sister's house. Starting tonight. 2 men, rotating shifts, 24/7 until this is resolved. I don't care what it costs. This is my sister. Good man. He hung up and looked at me. You're going to have protection until this is over. Raymond, that's too much. It's not nearly enough, he said. These people have shown you who they are. Believe them. Karen is desperate, and desperate people do desperate things. He was right. But I wasn't afraid. For the first time in months, surrounded by my brother's protection and armed with the truth about my own resources, I felt strong. Let her come, I said. I've got something she doesn't have. What's that? The truth, the law, and a baby brother who became a general. That's a winning hand. Raymond laughed, but his phone rang before he could respond. He answered, listened, and his face went serious. When? How much? Son of a... Okay. We'll handle it. Thanks for the heads up. He hung up and looked at me with barely controlled rage. That was my contact at the county clerk's office. Deshawn and Karen filed to take out a home equity line of credit on this property 2 weeks ago for $150,000. My heart stopped. What? They were approved yesterday. The money is scheduled to be released Monday morning. If they get that money... They'll disappear, I finished. They'll take $150,000 borrowed against my house and run. Exactly. I stood up, my hands shaking with rage. For months, I'd been the victim, the confused old woman who didn't understand what was happening. But I understood now. I understood completely. This wasn't just about the house. This wasn't just about their greed. This was about them systematically destroying everything I'd built, taking everything I had, and leaving me with nothing. But they made one mistake. They underestimated me. Call Lawrence, I said to Raymond. Tell him we need an emergency hearing first thing Monday morning. Tell him I want everything. The house returned to my name, every penny they took, and I want charges pressed for fraud and elder abuse. All of it. Raymond smiled. Now that's what I'm talking about. But there's something you should know. Karen's father, he owns 3 car dealerships and has connections with some rough people. If we push this hard, they might push back harder. I don't care. You sure? Because once we light this fire, there's no putting it out. I thought about 48 years of loving Deshawn, of sacrificing everything, of believing that love and family meant something. I thought about Karen's laugh as she threw my mother's china out the window. I thought about Deshawn's cold eyes when he told me this wasn't my house anymore. And I thought about the text threatening me in my own home. Burn it down, I said. Burn it all down. Raymond made the call. What I didn't know, what none of us knew, was that Karen's father was already making his own calls. And by Sunday morning, our little neighborhood war was about to explode into something much bigger and much more dangerous than any of us had imagined. Sunday morning, I woke up to find 2 men in suits sitting in a car outside my house. Raymond's security detail. One of them nodded at me through my kitchen window as I made coffee. For the first time in months, I felt safe in my own home. Raymond came downstairs looking tired. He'd barely slept, spending most of the night on the phone coordinating our legal strategy. Lawrence had filed emergency motions that would be heard first thing Monday morning at 9 a.m. How you feeling? He asked, pouring himself coffee. Like I'm about to go to war. Good, because that's exactly what this is. My phone rang. It was Pastor Mitchell from Greater Hope Baptist Church, where I'd been a member for 35 years. Sister Dorothy, the whole church is talking about what happened. We're all praying for you, baby. And I want you to know, if you need anything at all, this church family has your back. Tears filled my eyes. Thank you, Pastor. We're taking up a special collection today. Whatever you need for legal fees, you got it. Nobody treats one of our sisters like this. Not while I'm breathing. After church, where I received more hugs and offers of help than I could count, Raymond and I went to meet with Lawrence at his office. He had news. "We've got a problem," Lawrence said, spreading papers across his desk. "Karen's father, Gerald Thompson, owns Thompson Auto Group. 3 dealerships, worth about $20 million total. But that's not the issue. The issue is who he knows." "Who does he know?" Raymond asked. "He's connected to the Sterling family. You familiar with them?" Raymond's face went dark. "The Sterling crime family? The ones who run half the underground gambling and loan sharking in this city?" "The same. Gerald Thompson has been laundering money for them through his dealerships for years. We can't prove it, but the FBI has been watching him. And now he's made it clear. If we push forward with charges against his daughter, things are going to get ugly." "How ugly?" I asked. Lawrence pulled out his phone and showed me photos. My duplex on the east side, the windows smashed, graffiti sprayed across the front. "This happened last night. Your tenants called the police, but by the time they arrived, whoever did it was gone." My stomach dropped. "Are my tenants okay?" "Shaken up, but yes. They want to know if they should move out." "This is intimidation," Raymond said, his voice deadly calm. "They're sending a message." "It gets worse," Lawrence continued. "Deshaun showed up at his school this morning and found his classroom vandalized. Someone spray-painted snitch across his whiteboard and slashed his car tires. The principal put him on administrative leave pending investigation." "They're going after my son, too?" I whispered. "Karen's father doesn't care who gets hurt," Lawrence explained. "He wants you to drop everything. The house claim, the fraud charges, all of it. He wants you to sign a document stating you willingly gave Deshaun the house and you're happy with the arrangement. In exchange, he'll have Karen and Deshaun disappear and leave you alone." "And if I don't?" "Then things will escalate." He made that very clear. Raymond stood up and walked to the window, his hands clasped behind his back like he was surveying a battlefield. "What's his timeline?" "He wants an answer by midnight tonight. If he doesn't get it, he said, and I quote, 'The old woman will learn what it means to cross the Thompson family.'" I thought about everything I'd been through, everything I'd sacrificed, and I thought about letting these people win just because they had money and threats. "No," I said firmly. "Dot," Raymond started. "No," I repeated. "I will not be threatened out of what's mine. I will not let criminals intimidate me into giving up my home, and I will not teach that lesson to my son, that if you're powerful enough and mean enough, you can just take what you want." Lawrence nodded slowly. "I was hoping you'd say that. Because Raymond and I have been working on something." "What kind of something?" I asked. Raymond turned from the window with a slight smile. "The kind of something that involves my old friends at the FBI." Over the next hour, they explained the plan. Raymond had called in favors from his military days, specifically from a colleague who now worked in the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. They'd been building a case against Gerald Thompson and the Sterling family for 2 years. What they needed was someone willing to testify about intimidation and threats. "They want me to wear a wire?" I asked, incredulous. "Not exactly," Raymond said. "They want you to have a meeting with Gerald Thompson. They'll be recording from a distance. If he threatens you directly, makes any admission about the vandalism or intimidation, they can move in and arrest him. It'll blow their whole case wide open." "You want me to bait a gangster?" I stared at my brother. "Raymond, I'm 72 years old." "Which is exactly why it'll work," Lawrence said. "He won't see you as a threat. He'll underestimate you, just like Deshaun and Karen did. He'll talk freely because he thinks you're just a scared old woman who'll fold." "And what if he doesn't talk? What if he just hurts me?" "We'll have agents positioned everywhere," Raymond assured me. "At the first sign of physical threat, they move in. But Dot, I won't lie to you. There is risk. If you don't want to do this, we'll find another way. I thought about my neighbors, my church family, everyone who'd rallied around me. I thought about my tenants who were now afraid in their own home. I thought about Deshawn, whose career was being destroyed because he'd finally started to see the truth. What do I have to do? The meeting was set for 6 p.m. at a restaurant downtown. Neutral territory. I wore my best church dress and the cross necklace my mother had given me. Under my blouse was a small recording device the FBI had provided. In my purse was pepper spray and a panic button. Raymond rode with me, along with 2 FBI agents in an unmarked car behind us. 4 more agents were already at the restaurant, posing as diners and staff. "You sure about this, sis?" Raymond asked as we pulled up. "Not even a little bit," I admitted. "But I'm doing it anyway." Gerald Thompson was waiting at a corner booth. He was a large white man in his 60s, wearing an expensive suit and too much cologne. He stood when I approached, but didn't offer to shake my hand. "Mrs. Carter, thank you for agreeing to meet." "I didn't have much choice," I said, sitting across from him. "Your people made that clear." He smiled without warmth. "I don't know what you're talking about. I simply wanted to discuss this unfortunate situation with my daughter and your son." "The situation where they tried to steal my house?" "That's not how I understand it. From what Karen tells me, there was a simple misunderstanding about property ownership. These things happen in families." A waitress, actually an FBI agent, came to take our order. I asked for tea. Gerald ordered whiskey. "Mr. Thompson, why am I here?" He leaned forward. "Because you're a reasonable woman. You've lived a good life, worked hard, raised your son. Now it's time to enjoy your golden years. Fighting in court, all this legal drama, it's stressful. Bad for your health. So is being thrown out of my own house." "See? That's where we disagree on the facts." He took a sip of his whiskey. "The house is in Deshawn's name, legally. You signed it over. Maybe you regret it now, maybe you're confused. Happens at your age. But legally, it's his property." "I signed it under false pretenses. That's fraud." His eyes hardened. "That's a very serious accusation, the kind of accusation that could cause a lot of trouble for a lot of people, including you." "Is that a threat?" "It's a reality check." He pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. "This is a document stating that you willingly transferred the property to your son as a gift. You sign this, and all the legal drama goes away. Karen drops the harassment charges against you for having her arrested. You get to stay in the house as long as Deshawn allows it. Everyone wins. Except I lose my house and they get away with stealing from me." "You lose nothing. You get to live there until you die. Isn't that what you wanted?" I looked at the document. It was everything they wanted. Me admitting the transfer was willing, me dropping all charges, me giving up any claim to the property. And if I don't sign? Gerald's smile disappeared. "Then things get complicated. Accidents happen. Properties get damaged. People get hurt. You've already seen what can happen when investigations start causing problems." There it was, the direct threat the FBI needed. "You're threatening me," I said clearly, making sure the recording device caught every word. "I'm explaining reality to an old woman who seems confused," he corrected. "Bad things happen in this city. Fires, break-ins, sometimes even worse. It would be a shame if something happened to that nice duplex you own on the east side, or to your tenants, or to your church. Greater Hope Baptist, right? Beautiful building, very flammable, I imagine." My blood ran cold. "You would burn down a church?" "I wouldn't burn down anything. But I know people who might. People who don't like when old women make trouble for their friends." He leaned closer. "See, Mrs. Carter, you think because your brother was some army hotshot that you're protected. But the general is retired. He's got no power here. And my friends? They have all the power." "Your friends in the Sterling family?" His eyes flickered with surprise that I knew the name. "I don't know what you're talking about." The crime family you've been laundering money for through your dealerships. The people who helped you build your business with dirty money. Those friends? Now he was angry. You better watch your mouth, old woman. Or what? You'll have someone hurt me? Kill me? Is that what happened to the last person who tried to stand up to you? He grabbed my wrist across the table. You're making a big mistake. The biggest of your life. You sign that paper or I promise you'll regret. FBI, don't move! Agents swarmed from every direction. Gerald released my wrist and tried to stand, but 2 agents pushed him back down. One of them was reading him his rights, while another removed handcuffs from his belt. Gerald Thompson, you're under arrest for witness intimidation, conspiracy to commit arson, and extortion. You have the right to remain silent. I sat there shaking as Raymond rushed to my side. You okay, Dot? Did he hurt you? I'm fine, I managed. Did you get it all? An agent in a suit approached. Every word, ma'am. Plus, his admission about the Sterling family connection gives us grounds to execute search warrants on his properties. This is exactly what we needed. You're a brave woman. Gerald was screaming as they led him away in handcuffs. You stupid old bitch! You have no idea what you've done. My lawyers will have me out in an hour. You're dead. You hear me? Dead! That's more threats on recording, the agent noted. Just keeps digging himself deeper. That night, the news was everywhere. Major crime boss associate arrested. FBI raids auto dealerships in money laundering probe. Elderly woman's courage breaks open crime ring. My phone rang constantly. Reporters wanting interviews. The district attorney thanking me for my cooperation. Pastor Mitchell calling to say the whole church was praising God for my safety. And then, late that night, my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Deshaun, alone. He looked like he'd been crying. Mama, he said when I opened the door. Please, can we talk? I let him in. What else could I do? He was still my son. We sat in the living room, my living room, in my house, and for a long moment, neither of us spoke. Karen's gone, he finally said. She caught a flight to Los Angeles as soon as her dad got arrested. Didn't even tell me. Just left. I found her note when I got home from the police station. The police station? They questioned me for 3 hours. About the house, the money, everything. They wanted to know if I was involved in Karen's father's business. I told them the truth. I didn't know anything about any of that. I thought I loved her. I thought we were building a life. You were building a life, I said quietly. On top of my grave. He flinched. I know. God, Mama, I know. And I can't explain what happened to me. It's like I became someone else. She would say things and they made sense in the moment. That you were too dependent on me. That I needed to establish my own life. That you were holding me back. And I believed her. Did you believe her when she said to throw my things out the window? No. He started crying. No, I didn't. But she was so angry that morning, and she said if I didn't support her, she'd leave me, and I was too weak to choose you over her. I'm so sorry, Mama. I'm so sorry. I wanted to forgive him. God help me. Part of me wanted to pull him close like I did when he was little and tell him everything would be okay. But the other part of me remembered those china cups shattering. Remembered him calling me a burden. Deshaun, I loved you from the moment I held you. I gave you everything I had, and the first time life got hard, the first time you had to choose between easy money and doing right, you chose the money. I know. I need you to understand something. I forgive you, because I'm your mother, and that's what mothers do. But I don't trust you anymore. And I don't know if I ever will again. He nodded, tears streaming down his face. I understand, and I don't blame you, but Mama, please, let me make this right. Lawrence said there's a court hearing Monday. I want to testify. I want to tell them the truth about everything. How we tricked you into signing over the house, how we took your money, all of it. Why would you do that? You could go to jail. Because it's the truth. And because maybe if I do the right thing now, someday you might be able to look at me without seeing the man who betrayed you. Monday morning, the courthouse was packed. The hearing about my house had turned into something much bigger. The district attorney had filed criminal charges against Karen for elder abuse and fraud. Gerald Thompson was being held without bail on federal charges. And Deshawn had asked to testify. Judge Patricia Morrison, a black woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and no-nonsense demeanor, called the courtroom to order. Lawrence presented our case first. The fraudulent transfer, the financial exploitation, the recorded evidence of the threats, the vandalism, everything. Then Deshawn took the stand. "Mr. Washington," Lawrence said, "please tell the court how your mother came to sign over her house to you." Deshawn took a deep breath. "We lied to her. My wife, Karen, and I. We told her it was just estate planning, that she'd always have her home, that it was for her protection. But really, we wanted the house in my name so we could borrow against it and eventually sell it. We planned to put her in a nursing home and keep the money." The courtroom murmured. Judge Morrison banged her gavel. "How much money did you take from your mother?" Lawrence asked. $23,412 over 18 months. She gave it to us because we said we needed it for Karen's business. We never paid her back. We never intended to. And the house? We were going to sell it for about $200,000. We'd already talked to a real estate agent. We were going to split the money and start over somewhere else, leaving my mother in a nursing home. "Why are you testifying to all this?" Lawrence asked. "You understand this could result in criminal charges against you?" "Because it's the truth," Deshawn said, looking at me. "And because I've spent 48 years being loved by the best mother anyone could ask for, and I repaid her by betraying her. I can't undo what I did." "But I can tell the truth and accept the consequences." Judge Morrison looked at me. "Miss Carter, you've heard your son's testimony. What outcome are you seeking?" I stood up slowly. "Your Honor, I want my house back in my name. I want the fraudulent transfer reversed. I want repayment of the money that was taken from me, with interest. And I want my son to get help, counseling, therapy, whatever he needs to understand what he did and why." "You're not asking for criminal charges against your son?" "No, Your Honor. He's suffered enough, and he's telling the truth now. That means something." The judge nodded slowly. "Mr. Washington, you're very lucky to have a mother with such grace. The court orders the property at 1247 Maple Street immediately transferred back to Dorothy Carter. You are ordered to repay the full amount taken, plus 10% interest, in monthly installments. You will complete 100 hours of community service, and you will attend family counseling with your mother, if she's willing." She turned to me. "Miss Carter, this court finds that you were the victim of elder abuse and fraud. The property is yours. Additionally, given the emotional distress and the costs you've incurred, the court awards you $50,000 in damages to be paid from the proceeds of any sale of the defendant Karen Washington's assets." The gavel came down. It was over. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Raymond kept them back while Lawrence handled their questions. Deshawn stood to the side, looking lost. I walked over to him. "Baby." He looked up, his eyes red. "Yeah, Mama?" "You got somewhere to stay?" "I'm at a motel on Route 9. It's not much, but the apartment above my garage. It's been empty since I stopped renting it out 5 years ago. You can stay there while you figure things out. But you pay rent, $200 a month. And you help with yard work and repairs." "Mama, I don't deserve—" "No, you don't," I agreed. "But I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it because that's who I am. And maybe watching me live my life with dignity and strength will teach you something." He hugged me then, and I let him. But it wasn't like before. Something was broken between us. Maybe it could heal. Maybe not. But at least, now we had truth. 3 weeks later, I had a party, a real celebration. Raymond flew in some of his old military buddies. Pastor Mitchell and the whole church choir came, all my neighbors, the FBI agents who'd helped me, even my tenants from the duplex, whose windows I'd had replaced with security glass. We filled my house and my yard with food, music, and laughter. Somebody set up a speaker playing old-school R&B. Mrs. Johnson brought her famous sweet potato pie. Brittany from down the street brought her new baby to meet everyone. "Speech!" someone called out. "Miss Dorothy, say something." I stood on my front porch, and looked at all these beautiful faces, people who'd supported me, protected me, believed in me. "I learned something these past few months," I said. "I learned that family isn't always blood. Sometimes family is the neighbor who records evidence to protect you. Sometimes it's the church that takes up a collection for your legal fees. Sometimes it's the brother who flies across the country to be your shield and sword." Raymond raised his glass from the crowd. "I learned that being old doesn't mean being powerless. I'm 72 years old and I just took down a crime ring." Everyone laughed and cheered. "I learned that it's never too late to stand up for yourself, never too late to demand respect, never too late to fight for what's yours. I also learned that forgiveness doesn't mean being a doormat. I forgave my son, but I also set boundaries. I gave him grace, but I also demanded accountability. That's the balance. That's the wisdom that comes with age." I paused, looking at my home. My beautiful, paid-for, mine-again home. And I learned that the best revenge isn't hurting the people who hurt you. The best revenge is living well, living freely, living with dignity, and never, ever letting anyone make you feel like you're too old, too weak, or too unimportant to matter. The crowd erupted in applause. Later that evening, as things were winding down, Deshaun approached me. He'd been there all day, helping set up, serving food, staying quiet in the background. "That was a beautiful speech, Mama. Thank you. I meant what I said in court. I'm going to pay you back every penny. It's going to take me years on a teacher's salary, but I'll do it." "I know you will." "And Mama, I talked to a therapist last week. We started working through everything. Why I let Karen manipulate me. Why I was so willing to believe the worst about you. It's going to be a long process. The best things usually are." He looked at me with tears in his eyes. "Do you think someday you'll be able to be proud of me again?" I thought about that. About the boy I'd raised and the man he'd become and the man he might still be. "I think," I said slowly, "that someday you might be able to be proud of yourself. That's what really matters." As the sun set over my neighborhood, I sat on my porch with Raymond, watching the last guests leave. The security detail was gone now, no longer needed with Gerald Thompson in federal prison awaiting trial. My house was mine. My money was being repaid. My dignity was restored. "You did good, sis," Raymond said. "Real good." "We did good," I corrected. "I couldn't have done this alone." "Maybe not. But you were willing to stand up for yourself. A lot of people wouldn't have. They'd have just accepted it, figured they were too old to fight back." "I'm too old to give up," I said. "There's a difference." My phone buzzed. A text from Brittany. "Miss Dorothy, my mama wants to know if you can teach her computer skills like you taught me. She said if you can take down criminals, you can definitely teach her how to use email." I laughed and showed Raymond. He shook his head with a smile. "Looks like you're becoming a legend around here." "Good," I said. "Let me be a legend. Let me be the old woman who fought back and won. Maybe it'll inspire someone else who's being pushed around, who's being told they're too old or too weak to matter. Maybe they'll remember me and find their own strength." As the stars came out over Maple Street, I thought about everything I'd been through. The betrayal, the fear, the anger, but also the support, the love, the victory. I was 72 years old. I had my home, I had my dignity, I had my community. And I had learned the most important lesson of all. It's never, ever too late to stand up for yourself. The fight had been hard, but I'd won, and that made all the difference. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.